that off so we don't get blared out. Oh, no, we're good. Okay, let's see. We have an excellent connect. Oh, I opened the wrong window. Excellent connection there. Here it is. There we go. I opened the wrong chat dock on the OBS panel, so I'm just waiting a minute here, but I do see an excellent feed on the connector. Okay, there's the chat has loaded for Twitch and YouTube. So let's just go ahead, just like last time. Hello, chat. I'm just pasting this in both windows to establish that I can see things. Oops. Oh, I don't know why it doesn't, just will not copy and paste between chat windows, which is baffling. Okay. That's okay, though. Okay, Twitch stream is up. Excellent. All right. Looks like we're good everywhere. Okay, let me do my little enter keys here. Oh, let me send this too. So, send. Okay. I saw my own chat and thought that was somebody sending a chat to me. It absolutely was not. So, okay, let me do that, and let's open this. There's the confirmation that I'm live. Thank you. And muted, so it didn't blow anybody's ears out. Not that anybody's here. Go here. I have to watch that movie again. I haven't watched it in a while. By that movie, since you can't see what I'm saying or what I'm looking at, I made my dinner with Andre. I do need to watch it. I have the Criterion disc of that, which I have not watched yet. Okay, so repost. And done. Close that. That's all I need to do on my phone. Now we will do the many enter keys on Twitch. Sorry, not Twitch. Discord, not Twitch. Good grief. Sometimes I don't know what I'm saying. Many times I don't know what I'm saying. All right. And there. I believe that's everywhere I need to go. Okay, perfect. Close Discord out. All right, I'm going to give this chat rate 1. Well, that was me, so that makes sense. I've already checked that. I'm going to move my keyboard really quickly. Okay. And we'll move this so I can put this in a position. I will reorient, I believe is the correct term, my iPad so that it goes wide. There we are. And, get a drink of water really quick before I do anything. Well, I can start my thing going, so here we go. Oh. Nope, that was... I don't even know what I don't... Oh. Yeah, I know what that is. All right, here we go. There we are. Ooh, man, I took a very silent drink there. You may have heard a little of that, but it probably shouldn't be too much. All right, there we go. Wow, okay. So, this is... I think I can say pretty fairly, the worst part of this entire illustration. So I think, but I don't recall whether I showed off the colors last time. I'm sticking with that blue for now. That may change, but I'm going to go a little while without looking at the colors because I think that's going to help me. But what I'm actually working on now is the glass. So this will show you. These are the glass layers. Now, obviously, that just looks like a bunch of garbage. But each of those is basically a distorted brush, rotated or altered. And now the trick is, because this is just my thing, instead of just using the same texture under all the pieces, I have to alternate all the pieces. So I have to keep track of everything I've done before. And as you can see, there's erasure lines. And I have to erase, see the in-between parts? I have to erase any of the stuff I already have on this layer from this layer so that it's different. This is not something that anybody but me does to myself, but I'm doing it to myself because this is what I did on the Magic cards. This was my approach, and I did it and I liked it, so now I'm stuck doing it because I really can't not do it. As crazy as that is, I can't not do it. So, okay, sorry, I erased that. So, this takes forever. And it's not fun. And it might be miserable to look at, so I'm going to go ahead and apologize if it is up front, because it might be. This may not be any fun to watch. I really don't know. So I don't know. I will freely admit. Oh, I just realized what I did. I'll without any hesitation tell you, it's not my favorite thing to do. It's very, very tedious. It's very time consuming. But at the same time, this is part of the process for doing this for me. So I feel like, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't show it. Maybe I should just skip to the end of, when this thing is over with. But I feel like, I'm kind of showing you what I do and how I work. Well, this is how this works. And I'm going to have to do another one of these. This is only the second of 3 because I want to have at least 3 distinct panels. Now, technically, I should do 4 because there's 4 different colors in here. And I probably will end up doing that, which is going to just be maddening. But the 4th one, to be honest, should be the easiest one. So it should... Actually, I did create 4. There's 2 more. Yeah, I already know I was going to do 4. I already knew. But it shouldn't be as bad to do the 4th one. The 4th one should be the easiest of all of them. Oh, I already erased that, huh? Okay, good. But of course, I'm going to have to erase another one, but I have to get these done first. Yeah. Oh, see, I really? Oh, yeah, look at that. Those don't repeat. Interesting. But they will. I mean, eventually I'm going to have to erase. See, I can't leave these 2 next to each other because that defeats the whole point. The point is not to have repeaters. So, yeah. Yeah. Like I said, I'm making that noise because this is a ton of just literally going in here and manually clearing. By the way, this is one of those things, I think I talked about this on the last stream, where this is one of these things where an AI tool would be helpful, that I could just tell it, okay, art, whatever, go in and erase all the marked things for me. That would be a really good use of a machine tool of some kind to take that tedium out of things. That I would not mind. That's why I say I'm not against these tools. Not really. I just would like them to actually be used for specific things. But this would definitely be a use case for them. Stop me from having to do this. Because this is going to take, I guarantee you, the whole stream, and I probably won't even be done. Just to do this one thing. Because I have to do it very deliberately. Because, see, I have to... Okay, I have to think about this. I have to get rid of this one, too, because I can't have them next to each other. Okay? And then if I'm getting rid of this one, see, this is the planning part of it to some degree, is to get this all right. I should just get rid of the stuff where I've got the erasure lines so that I can get a clear picture of what I need to do next. Trying to do this on the fly is just going to end up being a problem. So I'm going to just get rid of the spaces where I have the erasure, I'm using the term erasure marks, so that I do this properly. So I don't know how long this stream will be, really, because I might get really sick of this really quick. But, I mean, I have to do it. It has to get done. And I had somebody actually ask me when I was doing the magic cards, because I did this same basic technique for that. I said, well, couldn't you just use Photoshop to do it? And I said, honestly, because Photoshop is not, it just doesn't work. Well, okay, let me state this the correct way. There may be a way to do this with Photoshop that I just don't quite get how to do. I'll admit that maybe, because I don't ever say I'm really a professional with Photoshop. I just know how to do a lot with it. And I don't know how I would do some of my work without it. But I am not, I couldn't teach a Photoshop course, I don't think. Let's put it that way. So I don't know everything about it, but I have not found a really good... Did I really not? Hold on. Yeah, I did. That's interesting. I have not found a really easy way to do this type of thing with Photoshop. Doesn't mean there isn't one. It means I haven't figured out what that way is. So, no, it would take virtually the same amount of time. But I actually think I would probably give myself carpal tunnel syndrome if I'm not already developing it. I don't think I am, but I'm just saying, if I've already not started it because of my heavy computer use, because I'd have to click so many little things back and forth, back and forth. I don't think it would actually gain me that much time. And I think it would drive me crazy having to use a mouse and going, because I'd have to select all these lines individually and clear them because the feather never quite works right. It's not, you know, these lines are not exactly 1 pixel, so the feathering's going to be off. It would just be a nightmare. I really think it would just end up being more difficult to do it with Photoshop than to just do it this way. So the downside of doing it this way is it's just very, very tedious, and it's you have to pay attention, and you know, it's not. I'm saying these things as if these are major complaints. They're really not. I try to always sort of step back for a minute and go, you know what? There are people who would really love to have this kind of problem, to be able to create something and then have to fix it, and, you know, be able to work within it and be able to create things. So I try not to whine too much about this stuff, but at the same time, just because I do like to let people know that it's not, that drawing and illustration and creativity are not all fun and games. It's not just all like, yay, I just drew something that was in my head and it was that easy. It's not that easy. Creating something takes effort. Creation is not, and that's one of, by the way, is sort of I guess a bit of a mini commentary on my other issue with the way that some people are using these machine tools, is they have this idea that creation is a simple thing. You just tell a machine what you want and it just makes it. And I'm not saying that those tools don't exist, but I don't know. You lose something in there, I think. I really think that when you don't have to suffer just a little bit, not a lot, but when you don't have to grapple with your creation at all, and I'm sorry, but when people are like, well, it is a lot of work. I have to do, 50 to 100 prompts to get it to be what I want. It's not the same thing. You're not doing the work. Creating different word assemblage to make an image be what's in your head that's not the same kind of work. Because ultimately, what comes out of this type of work, what I'm doing here, this annoyance, I'll just use the word for it, is I do sometimes stumble across new ideas. I've made mistakes that I've thought, I actually kind of like how that looks. And so the grind of it does end up paying off a bit. Not always. I'm not going to pretend that every time I have to do this, I feel like I've really learned something. It's not always the case. But there are definitely times where it's felt like it's ended up being, geez, that's really weird looking. Why did I not? You know what? Executive decision. That's going to be one of the other ones. That's fine. I mean, I'm not going to have all these here anyway, so it's fine. But that just doesn't look right. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. And then that lines up, and that's fine. And that could be something else. That's okay. It's really weird that I did that. Very weird that I did that. But that's okay. Let's see. Well, you know what? That's going to work out. This will work out okay. See, this is what I mean. I did something. I made a screw up, and I'm like, okay, no, that's going to work. That'll work okay, because I have to do other ones anyway. So it'll work out. It's going to be a little odd, but not terribly so. Just have to make a new adjustment, and this will be one of the 3 and 4 layers. That's all. No problem. See, now you do it through a tool. Would a machine tool have ever made that decision because of that particular mistake, if that's even considered a mistake? No. And I'm not saying that I suddenly learned some magical after-school lesson from that or anything like that. But like I said, I just feel like with these machine tools, and again, I'm not against them, because there's definitely times where that what I'm saying, specifically what I'm saying right now about learning and the annoyance of doing this stuff sometimes, some of that goes right out the window. It doesn't matter. And I'll use as an example, let's say you have somebody who has a mobility issue or a mobility challenge where they can't do fine work like this. They don't have the ability for whatever reason to be able to hold or move their fingers with steadiness, and instead, maybe it's a Parkinson's or something where there's twitching or muscle spasms going on. Do I think that person shouldn't be able to create artwork? Of course I don't. That person, absolutely. Because the reality is that the other avenues of creative expression may not exist for that person. That's okay. I just think if you say you want to be an artist and you don't put any of yourself into it, and somebody else say, oh no, I am putting myself into it because I'm creating the prompts. Yeah, but you're letting the machine or an algorithm or whatever term you want to use for it, a database, you're letting that fill in some of the creative element for you. You're not seeing it yourself. And there are some people who don't want it. Some people don't care. I'm like, yeah, I don't care. I'm not really trying to, do this. I just need an image I think looks cool for a background or for a project or whatever. Okay, go for it. That's fine. Not everybody who has had to create art has necessarily really wanted to, truly has really wanted to be an artist, but had no other means and had to do it that way. Well, those people shouldn't have to learn all this stuff if they really don't care. It's kind of like I remember there was a friend of mine when I was younger. I want to say his cousin, I don't remember. I think it was somebody related to him, was a really, really good basketball player. I mean, really good. And, would play for fun, but was constantly hounded by, school people and all the rest of it. When this is, way back in high school. Hounded, oh, you need to try out for the team. You've got really good skill. You could be a great basketball player. You could go to college, get a scholarship. And he just had no interest. He only cared about basketball, truly only cared about it as far as it was an entertainment thing. Wanted nothing formal about it. Just wanted to be able to play basketball because he enjoyed it as a purely as a diversionary exercise. But absolutely had no interest. Was adamantly against and really got very angry when people were like, no, you need to play because you're really good. And he would just say, I don't want to. It's not the point. And he knew he had talent, but he just didn't want to formalize it. He just wanted to play to have fun. And that's what, if that's what people want, go for it. I'm not gonna, But I think what a lot of other artists, because I'm in a lot of different spaces where there's other creative people, I think what makes a lot of artists upset or cranky about some of the AI stuff is not really the tools themselves, it's how people position themselves using those tools. Because and I have seen people saying, I'm every bit as much an artist as whoever they're engaging with, by the way, if you are an artist in this space, don't engage with these people. Let them say whatever they want, let it roll right past you. Don't engage, you can't win. You can't win. So I never do. I just let it all go by and I don't care. Because there is no winning with people like that. And you can tell a lot of them are just spoiling for a fight. They just want to get into an argument. Don't give it to them. But a lot of them will say things about how, art is easy, just do this. And then they'll refer to a machine tool. And I think a lot of artists bristle at that because that's exactly that's the wrong attitude, in my opinion, to have. That art is easy because a tool does, let's be honest, the majority of the work for you. Coming up with a prompt is not that difficult. Even refining prompts and going through 3 or 4 versions of them, I'm sorry, but that's not all that difficult. That's just coming up with, it's like solving a language puzzle. Fun, interesting, but let's not pretend that that's really that much work. It's not. And the thing that I'm always curious about with that is, and this is what I mean about you sort of short circuit yourself as a creator, is would you have, because I think a lot of people who get into art in any form, they start off, and this is kind of just a natural thing, is you start off and you see other artists that you really like, and you sort of you think, even if you're not doing things in their style, but a lot of times, depending on what you're picturing or what you're seeing in your head, you likely adopt or kind of reform these other artists that you admire, their work into a version of what's in your head. So you're seeing what they would make. Not saying that's an imitation or that you're copying them, but that your mental vision of it when you first start out is likely based, at least in part, on their style, their work, or whatever, because you don't have a visual language of your own, and so you borrow mentally. I'm not saying that you actually draw things that look exactly like somebody else. You might do that, but a lot of what you may picture in your head is what they would do, and then what becomes the kind of building blocks of your style is figuring out what you want to do differently from that person. And that's an interesting thing, is to have an artist who you admire and realizing at a certain point that there are things you want to do differently. It's a tricky thing. It really is, because, you look at somebody and you're like, well, I like what they do, so I want to do it like that because I like that that's how they did it. But then there's this point for most people, most artists, not all, but most, where they get to a realization that, well, there's a point where the inspiration ends and your own personal views, like you may look at something another artist does and you're like, wow, I like a lot of what that person does, but I don't like the way they do shadows. I don't like it. I don't like the way they do shadows. I want to do shadows differently. And then you do the shadows differently. And that leads you then to say, well, I mean, if I'm already doing the shadows differently, what if I drew, X thing like this? And sometimes that works out, sometimes it doesn't. It doesn't mean that you're going to suddenly find your style just by completely rejecting all the things you like about the other artist. You may incorporate parts of it. I know there's certain things that I do that are very, very, very heavily influenced by the French artist Mobius. Not in ways that you might obviously see. Maybe some people would. But there are definitely some little accent lines. I really like some of the little accent lines he did. I think they're wild and interesting. And so I do sometimes try to imitate those. But, and this is somewhat of a good thing, I think, for me anyway, because I don't really want to be copying somebody else. At least not where you would very obviously go, oh, this guy must like Mobius because look what he's doing. It's exactly what Mobius does. But there's sort of a benefit for me that I'm not anywhere near as good as Mobius is. So I can't really directly imitate him, even if I wanted to, because I don't have that level of ability. And so it forces me to come up with workarounds and try to get close to what I've got in my head while knowing I can't just copy somebody else. I think that for me, that's a good thing. I'm happy that block is in existence because it stops me from giving into the temptation to just copy. Because I don't want to do that. I don't want to copy. But, are there things that are definitely influenced by some of my favorite artists? Yeah, of course there are. Can't tell you there aren't. You can see little bits of Art Adams in my stuff. You can see little bits of Katsuhiro Otomo. Little bits. Very little bits. Barely anything. I mean, oh boy. Talk about somebody whose talent I will never be able to approach. There's number one, right on top of the list. A little bit of Mobius here and there. The little bits of lots of artists here and there. And there's lots of artists who I really, really like that I can't even pretend that there's any of them present in my work because I don't understand how they do their work. They're so good and so specific and have such a visual identity and personality that I don't know how I would imitate it, so I can't even incorporate influence of it into my work. Frank Whiteley's a good example. I love Frank Whiteley stuff. Bart Sears, these are really great artists that I don't know how they do what they do. I mean, yeah, I could trace over them and then I'd understand how they do what they do, but that's not what I mean. What I mean is I don't know how they form the visual foundations of what they do. And without that, without being able to even understand where it comes from or seeing it as almost like an alien type of style, no way I can even incorporate parts of it. Which is not to say that just because I understand how some other artists are doing things, that I have any, near level of talent as they do. Just because I can kind of break down where Art Adams is doing things doesn't mean I'm anywhere near as good as he is. It just means that there's more of a logic to it based on how my brain works. Like I can see some of the underlying kind of framework of what he's doing in a way that Frank Whiteley just starts from such an alien place to me in my experience, where I'm just like, man, how does he decide that those lines go there? Not in a practical sense. Obviously, I know he's drawing the arms of somebody because that's where their arms go. But I mean, the way he uses kind of, I don't know what else to call it, softness of line, how he has very specific faces that he does that are really wild and interesting. They're not meant to be realistic, and that's what I think works so well about them. They have this very distinct quality to them. But I can't figure out, I can't see the starting point of them. I really can't. I mean, even if you showed me his initial sketches, it's not going to do it. That's not what I mean. It's not a technique thing specifically. It's more of a mental landscape thing. Kind of impossible for me to explain. I know I'm doing a miserable job of it. But that's what I mean about it. Certain artists that I absolutely love their work. There's no risk of me consciously or unconsciously imitating them, because there's no way I ever could. They're too far outside my realm of experience in how artwork is done. And that's a good thing. Like I said, I am extremely happy about that. I have seen artists who are very, very clearly copying other artists' styles and techniques, and I just cannot pretend to respect it all that much. I think there's incorporation, there's inspiration, but the minute that you get to a point where you can clearly see that somebody's just ripping off somebody else's work, yeah, it all ends there for me. And that's not a. Some people would say, well, then you must hate AI stuff because it's all ripping off. Well, some of it is and some of it isn't. That too, to be fair, some of that responsibility has to be laid at the feet of the people that are creating prompts that are saying, make this in the style of somebody else. That's the ripoff. You know what I mean? Those people are consciously okay with ripping somebody else off because they're telling the machine to do it. The machine doesn't just act on its own. If you take one of these tools and say, make me a fantasy landscape, and you don't give it any other direction, the chances that it's going to make one in the style of one of your favorite artists is probably pretty low, unless there's a specific artist associated with the subject matter. Meaning, if you say, oh, I want a beautiful rendered and illustrated, rendered illustrated painting of characters from Lord of the Rings, there's a good chance you will get ones that are at least partially inspired by. There were two really big Lord of the Rings artists. I can't remember their names. I apologize, but they did a lot of illustrations for the books and are very closely associated with those characters, those worlds. So the chances that the machine would use one of them as an inspiration point is very high, because their work is so closely tied in with the Lord of the Rings characters. So that could happen. But if it's something generic, like, okay, I want you to, you're saying to a machine, oh, create a big red dragon that's flying around the countryside and, I don't know, making friends with bunnies. The chances that thing, if that's all you give it, end up making that thing correctly the first time for you are very slim. So what most people do, and this is where a lot of people get upset, is they'll say, well, I want a giant red dragon making friends with bunnies in the style of, name your favorite artist. And that's where, then the machine is going to go and try to reference, in many cases, the artwork of that person if they've ingested it, assuming it's publicly available, which a lot of more famous artists are, because, pre all this stuff, people were uploading their things online so people could appreciate them and find them and all the rest of it. So it'll go and it'll find this stuff and it'll drag it out and it will create an image that probably will seem very close to, if not directly incorporating elements of some of these more famous artists. And that's where a lot of these people are upset, because that to some degree does take money away from them. It does take work away from them. If you can just have a tool that you're paying $20 a month for, create a piece of art that's 99% the same as a really good artist who should be reimbursed for their work, well, most places aren't going to pay for it. They're just going to get it for free. Most people aren't going to pay for it. They're just going to get it for free. So I do understand a lot of the concern that people have over this stuff. I don't share it because I don't think my work is under any threat, because I don't think it's big enough, number one, but also because I don't think a machine can do what I can do. That's not necessarily saying I'm good at something. It's just saying I don't think the machine would make the decisions I would make. It wouldn't see things the way I see things. I just don't think that's possible. A machine just does not think that way. And that's good. That's good. Oh, you know what? I probably should have... Oh, did I not have a thing there? Oh, yeah, I did it already. Okay, that's fine. I couldn't... Wait, is there one there? No. Interesting. Okay. Well, just checking. See, it's a big mess. I mean, it really, in the end, it's a big mess. Because I don't know what the solution's going to be. You're never going to shut all these things down. You can't stop what's going on with them. They're gonna keep going. They're gonna, you know, improve and do lots of different things, which is fine. Wait, was it? Yeah, it is. Okay, I do have a line there, so we'll take all that out. But at the same time, I do think there is a risk to creative individuals, that there are people who will not even bother getting into creativity because they'll think, well, if I can just have a machine do it. And that by the way, the aspect of somebody who doesn't bother trying anything but the machine tool, that I think is a seriously detrimental thing, because it could stop somebody from ever trying something where they might have a completely wonderfully unique style, and if they never try it, because all they do is just go to the machine and they because again, there's an intangible thing. It's very hard to really tell you what it is. It's hard. But there is this thing where when you discover what your style is independent or with incorporation of people that you really admire, it's a completely different thing. To kind of realize, okay, you know, like I said, I'm never going to be Mobius. Never. But that I can be my own kind of artist that is independent of Mobius, but still with the admiration of that. There's something really extraordinary about that. And if you don't ever have that moment where you have to disconnect what you're doing from the person you admire, I don't know. I think there's a lot of potential for wonderful, unique, and special creative voices to never bother to even try to express themselves in their own voice. They'll just exist as using prompts and basing the stuff off there. And just isn't to say they can't create anything, but it makes you wonder what if they had really just done it themselves, if they'd really just tried and had to do some of the struggle and back and forth, and that includes disappointment, frustration, anger, all the stuff that comes along with trying to be a creative individual. Without all that struggle, it's the whole Captain Kirk thing, that sometimes, you know, you need your pain. That pain helps you because it really can help you discover things. It can help you decide what's important to you. And when a machine tool does that, no matter how specific your prompts may be, there's a component of yourself that's missing, because there's a portion of that creativity that is being done by not you. And so that is going to warp and influence whatever the final work is, because it isn't really you. It's a collaboration at that point. That's what it is. It's you and the tool. You know, because the prompt is not the whole thing. The prompt still is still subject to, I guess I should say, to some degree, the whims of the machine. And for some people, that's great. There are some people, I have no doubt there will be artists who basically, you know, bill themselves as co-creators, and the machine is kind of their collaborator. Neat idea. I don't have any problem with that either. But I think if people are using these tools and thinking that they're the artist, well, you're not. I'm sorry, but you're not. You are one of the artists. You are a portion. But just because you came up with the prompt doesn't make you a solo artist. It doesn't make you the only artist. You will always have to share some portion of that credit with the machine, the tool that you used. That's okay. You can do it, but don't have any delusions that you created the thing. The machine created the thing to some degree in accordance with what you wanted. But I've seen people who've mentioned that they have gone through like 100 different prompt variations. And I no exaggeration, saw one the other day where somebody said, yeah, I did, it wasn't 100, it was a little bit short. It was something like 99 or whatever variation. And, I finally just got tired of it, and I thought, this is good enough. This is fine. This will work. And there's a ton. There's so much that's in between those statements that really tells you what the person did was they didn't really get what they wanted. They gave up. They gave up on what they actually had in their head because the machine, not them, at least not entirely them, because the machine couldn't manifest it. And so this person gave up on what was in their head. And I'm not going to tell you, because I don't know. I can't sit here and say with any degree of confidence, well, if that person had just done the work themselves, they could have gotten it. Maybe not. But I don't know that they couldn't have. And they'll never know because they gave up. And to me, that's a negative. That's going to end up making that person maybe not try as hard to get where they want to go next time, and they'll just take, they don't want to do a 90, whatever, 80 something prompts again. Okay, well, I'm just going to give this 50 prompts, and whatever it comes up with, that'll do. There's a side of that that's good, and there's a side of it that's bad. The side of it that's good is, there is a point where you have to stop what you're working on and say, nope, no artwork is ever finished. It's just the point where you stop working on it. But if that point is driven by an external factor, I think it's bad. If it's you taking a break from your work and then coming back to it, let's say a week later and saying, you know what? This is actually where I want it to be. There's nothing left to be done here. I can only make it worse from here. That's you making that decision. But if it's driven by the fact that you're just sick of having to feed prompts, because it will make you hate the work. Having to just keep prompting and prompting and prompting to try to refine this thing over and over, well, it's just going to make you hate it. That's kind of another thing that was in between some of what this person was saying, is it was very clear that by the end of the work, they really didn't care about it anymore. That they were done with it and they didn't even want to think about it. That doesn't mean they won't go back to it in a month and say, oh yeah, okay, this is actually pretty good. I like where this ended up. But it's a shame when you end up hating a work. Not that I haven't done it myself, but it happens less often over time. And I think some of that is a byproduct of me doing the work. Whereas if I could just keep blaming the machine for it, I don't know. It's a strange mentality to think about. Like I said, all this might make me sound like I'm anti these tools, and I'm really not. I just think that they have a place, and to some degree, because this is how it goes with these things. There's such a gigantic hype machine around them now, where everybody just wants to be the ones that are doing stuff with AI tools. That it's overinflating what they do, and I think it's setting up unrealistic expectations and putting people in a less creative place than they would be if these tools didn't exist. That's all. So I didn't want to come off like how long have I been talking about this? 38 minutes. Oh boy. Sorry, everybody. In the end, let's upswing this to a more positive note. In the end, whatever allows people to create is a good thing. That's why I'm not against these tools. Oh, I saw that. Let me grab that back. That actually lasted for a while. I'm not against them. Really not. Okay, it should come back in a second. There we are. Perfect. I just think that there's that right now we're in the rough early stages of them, and there's a lot of people saying a lot of things about them that I think are kind of silly, to be honest. Oh, there's one. So we'll see. I am legitimately curious where we're at 10 years from now with these things. Even 5 years from now, I'm sure will be fascinating. But certainly once once all the just massively overdone attention to it fades, and there has to be actual practical applications, and people have to figure out how to make them cost effective and everything else. I'm curious what they're going to look like. I think that's a very different world than the one we're in today. The one we're in today is just the classic kind of tech hype cycle over things where it's the hot thing and everybody's eager to shove it into everything they've got. And we'll see what it ultimately looks like. Like I said, 5-10 years from now, probably 5 years is probably more interesting to think about where it'll be. And I don't know. They're not going away. I think anybody who thinks all this stuff is way overinflated and it's all going to fade out, no, it's not going to fade out. But I think the nature of it will change. Our fervor towards it, our just undying enthusiasm to have it and everything, that's going to go away. Because I think the limitations are already becoming clear on what these things can do. And they're not all going to get solved. That's another thing, is a lot of the people who are enthusiasts in these spaces think, oh, no, any problem it has today, it's going to get solved. It's all just going to, they'll eventually get to where this stuff won't be a factor. I'm not convinced of that. I think some of these problems are solvable and some of them are not. At least when I say that, meaning that it won't be solved by finally coming up with a version of one of these things that isn't susceptible to the problems. They're all going to have the problems, just different types. All right, so now, okay, let's do this, because I have to get rid of the replicants of these. So you see what I mean about now it's alternating? So now, in here, I need to create separations between these. So this is what I mean about that first erase pass. That was only the first erasing pass. Now I have to come in and start separating them even more. Because eventually I'm going to, you know what I should do with this one? I should make it really obvious that, okay, there, do that. Just so that I can tell which ones are which. That's much better. Much better. So now I can see what's what. It was a little difficult when they all have the same basic color, because they all look the same. So this way it's easier for me to separate. So like this is all gotta go. That's all gotta go so that that one can be different in between these. Yep, so we'll get rid of that. Where are we at time-wise here? 42 minutes. Yeah, okay, we'll bring this to a close soon, because honestly this is starting to drive me a little crazy looking at it. As I knew it would. That's why I was saying this is tedious work. This is tedious work. Necessary. You gotta do it. Or I gotta do it. I shouldn't say you gotta do it. I gotta do it. Because I want all these glass panels to have these distinct kind of sides to them. So I knew I was going to do this. I also knew I was going to hate it. Not hate it. I shouldn't say hate. I knew it was going to be the least interesting of all the things I was going to do. I think that's the best way to put it. It's just not particularly interesting work to do. Because it is just, a lot of erasing and keeping track of what layers are where, and so it gets a little bit. If you were to do this yourself, you would quickly figure out, oh yeah, this is not the best part of doing this stuff, which it really isn't. But it's not terrible. Once you find the approach that works for you, it's not terrible. It took me a few different tries to get this right before I really realized what I was going for, and then it was fine. Once I worked that out, it just became, okay, this is what you have to do, and just understand that you're going to be doing this for a while, and that was it. And then it wasn't as bad. It was fairly easy to do. Now I will say I will probably keep doing this in the background. I don't know that I want the whole next stream to be this. So I may keep chopping away at this in between streams, because I don't know that I just want to do another stream of doing this for an hour. So I may not, the next stream may not have as much, or this might be probably not done, but more done. Because I do think there is something interesting to it. I think it's worth seeing what this is. I realize I just missed that. But I don't know that we need to watch a whole other stream of it. I think this conveys the larger points of how it works. So we'll see. But I don't know that I'll have it all done by the next stream. So there may be, you may see it and more of this is done, but it's not complete, and that's fine. But I don't know. I don't know if I want to just save. Oh, you know what? I just realized there was. Huh. Well, it's okay. I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of that anyway. I'm also discovering some things I missed. That's fine too. But yeah, I don't know that I need to do a whole other stream of just this. You know. So we'll see. Because I mean, literally, we're at 45 minutes, and this is all I've been doing. Which, like I said, I hope this is not terminally boring for everybody. But I do think there is some value in seeing it. I think it does kind of show you how it works. And this is what it is. This is not something I'm only doing for this stream. This is exactly what I've done on all the images since the original Mortal Window image that I did that got me the magic card to begin with. This is the process I use for doing the stained glass stuff. This is exactly it. So this is not anything that I didn't do on my magic cards and that I did on some of my other illustrations. This is exactly how it works. Which I also think is somewhat the point of the stream, is to show you exactly how my work progresses. Because there are legitimately people that are interested. I've had people. I mean, the reason I started doing these live streams is people were asking me, oh, you know, you should do video of your work. Really? Okay. I mean, if you want to see it, sure. It's not hard, fortunately, because the iPad does make a very, very useful streaming tool. It's very good at that. So, not a problem to do it. You know, I like those two intertwining, so I'm going to leave those. I'm going to get rid of this one. Be careful there. Okay. Okay, I think I got that just right amazingly, because there's a dark spot there. So I got lucky that went that well. Just follow that down. There we are. Yeah, I gotta see. These all have to get broken up. These cannot stay like this. Gotta break all this up. Let's break that up. Let's get the bigger brush, not the biggest brush. Careful. Okay. Some dark spots. Actually, I can lighten this up a little bit because I've got the yellow on that there. Just so I can see the hard edges on the lines out there. Make this easier. There we are. So then we gotta do this one. Okay. Down. We'll do this one. See how tightly packed these are, so you almost just have to do every other one. Not much point in doing anything else. Same thing here, which already leads up to that, so that works out. Because yeah, I don't want, if I can avoid it, I don't want two of the glass patterns, or whatever you would call them, the glass grain. I don't want two of the same ones next to each other. I want them to all look like different pieces of colored glass that were put together separately into the same image. So that's what I'm doing here. Okay, we can do the big brush for this. Just like that. And I think we're gonna wrap it up with this, because the iPad is getting warm and I'm about ready to be done with it anyway. So I mean, it's going well. This is actually going very well. I haven't made any major screw-ups yet, which I inevitably do on these, but so far I think I actually implemented my action plan the proper way this time. I often screw it up from the beginning and then realize way too far down the line that I messed up, but I think I'm okay so far. All right, yeah, this is, yeah, I need a break from this, so we'll do that, and we'll do that. There we go. Okay, and I will disconnect this. Oh yeah, I'm at 60% anyway, so battery's low. So that's a good point to stop and recharge the old iPad. yeah, so there you go. A little bit of working on some glass details. And that's where we're going to stop. So we ended up about 50 minutes. I actually wasn't sure if I was going to go more than half an hour with that because that can get really irritating. But it went pretty well. For me to do that for 50 minutes is an accomplishment. Because it is not, just to be honest, it's not my favorite part of doing this stuff. The glass part, when it's done, I like it. I like how it looks when it's done. But getting those glass pieces individualized is tedious work. I'll just say that. So. And my reward for my work was a drink of water. Well, okay. Still, good stream. Got some work done. Nothing crashed, nothing wrecked. I legitimately am thrilled about that. On that note, everybody, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Thank you for stopping by. Don't think anybody popped by live. At least I never saw it. So if you did and I missed you, sorry I missed you. But that's okay. I don't need people to show up live. People showing up whenever they show up, that's enough for me. I really am very pleased that the subscriber numbers are just slowly, steadily growing. That's fine. I am extraordinarily happy with organic subscriber growth. I don't want to be somebody who just has a burst and then it fades off and nobody cares anymore. And I'm not paying for people to come to me. That's just not how I operate. So people finding me however they find me, that's the best type of thing. So thank you for stopping by, whether it's live or later, doesn't matter to me. Go out there and try to be creative yourself. I think it's really good for you. In whatever ways. It does not have to be that you go out and paint some huge 24 by 36 canvas either. I think a lot of people get caught up in the idea that their creativity has to be on some big scale. It doesn't. It can be little things. It can be napkin doodles. Draw little smiley faces on napkins and, give them to people you like. Something saying, have a nice day. Even that is just a way of taking creativity and trying to make somebody else's day better, which is really what the goal should be. But be creative in some way. And go experience creativity through somebody else too. Because you never know what might inspire you to be creative in your own way. It doesn't have to be watching me draw. It can be watching somebody create music with, I don't know, what did I just see? I just saw something where somebody was, were they hitting golf balls into a guitar to play notes or something like that? Something like that, where it was silly, but it was neat. And there's all these interesting little arts and crafts that people do, really simple things. Go learn to cook something. That's a form of creative expression. Learn how to make a meal. Find something that you've always had in a restaurant, never been able to make yourself. Go watch somebody make a video of how to do it that's easy for starters. That's creativity too. It can take all different forms. Anyway, now I'm just babbling on. So thank you for stopping by. Appreciate you coming by. And like I said, go be creative. It's good for you. And on that note, until next time, insert placeholder boilerplate language here until I can think of something more creative to say. And until the next stream, thank you for stopping by, and take care.